Good afternoon and welcome to Law News. City lawyer Danstan Omari has said he will take legal action against the Electoral Public Prosecution Noordin Haji for character assassination. Haji called Omari and his team busybodies during an interview on Sonko's impeachment case at East African Court of Justice.
Very much. My name is Danstan Omari Mogaka, born on the 6th December 1964. I attended Nyamira Primary School, did CPE, got 19 points. Late Noordin is close also. The primary school he went, what grade he got. In 1983, I sat for KCSE and obtained a Division 2 from Gabanyoru Secondary School. Late Noordin Haji produced his Form 4 certificate after he was expelled from Kabarak Secondary School in Form 3. In 1985, I sat for Form 5, Form 6 at Guga High School and secured 19 points. For Form 6, let Noordin Haji produce his Form 6 certificates. In the year 1990, I graduated the bachelor's degree in education, second-class lawyers from Kenyatta University. Let Noordin Haji produce his degree in public. In the year 2008, I graduated with a bachelor's degree of law from the prestigious University of Nairobi. Let Noordin produce his LLB degree. In 2011, on the 4th of November 2011, I was admitted as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. Let Noordin produce documents when he was admitted. On 2nd of December 2011, I graduated with a master's degree of law from the University of Nairobi. Let Noordin produce his master's degree. I have worked openly, and everybody knows where I have worked. As a teacher, under the Teacher Service Commission, under the Children's Department, under the Director of Children's Services. I have also worked now as an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. Let Noordin tell us, after he left Outrol's office for a duration of 1 month, 12 days as a state council, where was he recruited? When was he recruited? And when did he leave to join NIS? Dean calls me a busybody. He has never argued even one case, a simple case of stealing of a banana or chicken. That is the Director Public Prosecution. A man who has never argued even one case. Remember, he has pursued Governor Waititu and is asking, show us even one classmate of Governor Waititu. I'm daring Noordin Haji, show me one student you were with at the School of Law. Show me one advocate where you went for pupillage. Show me any classmate of yours in the legal sector. There's no difference between you, Noordin Haji, and Waititu. So calling advocates as busybodies. In my law firm, there are young advocates who are 2-3 years in admission. The director of public prosecution, instead of coming and arguing with them in court, he chooses to go to NTV AM live in the morning, where nobody can be able to ask him a question. In the petitions we filed, the first petition, we asked for transcripts of Noordin when he was being interviewed for the position of Director of Public Prosecution. He's the only guy who was interviewed in camera. All the others were interviewed in public with a pretense that he was working for NIS. 2, in Parliament when he was being vetted, he read a statement. He was never questioned. The clips are there. He says he is a prosecutor in chief, the commander of prosecution. He has never even known any courtroom in this country. He sees the courtrooms on media. That is the command. Noordin says, I have stopped the war against corruption. He's admitting that a mere advocate can derail the war against corruption. He needs to vacate that office. If an advocate can argue a matter and adjourn that matter against his lieutenants, then that is an indictment that we have the most incompetent, the most useless person sitting in the office of the DPP. Remember, Danstan Omari has never been recommended by anybody to be arrested and be charged for any criminal offense. One Noordin Haji, the DCI has recommended he be arrested and be charged for forgery. That is a criminal suspect. I can understand why he is bitter with us. We have raised very fundamental issues, that he has turned the office of the Director of Public Prosecution into an employment bureau for his relatives and religious adherents to the contrary of the Christian faith. I know why he's bitter with us, because he cannot face us. Mr. Noordin, come to court, prosecute your matter. I will defend the person you have arrested. You will score 0. That is why you have avoided coming to court. Mr. Noordin Haji is advising the public that Sonko has chosen wrong advocates. Noordin Haji has been hounding Sonko left and right. When did Noordin Haji, 1, appear in a civil matter if he cannot appear in a criminal matter? Sonko has a right to be represented by an advocate of their own choice. And it can't be Noordin because he doesn't have papers to represent anybody. He doesn't. So let it go that statement, calling us busybodies, saying that we are delaying the war against corruption, is in response. Remember, we wrote a letter to the president saying the president should tell Noordin Haji to resign, because he is the bottleneck. He is the most person who has stopped the war against corruption. Noordin Haji, Yabasaki, don't arrest, don't charge any criminal suspect. One Noordin Haji, on a particular day, you will see one Noordin Haji on top of a political vehicle in Garissa, campaigning for the party called UPIA. Is that the person who is fit to be the director of public prosecution? He's a politician affiliated to the Kenya Kwanza Brigade, so that the president, every time the president wants people arrested and arraigned in court, one Noordin Haji has given a blanket insurance for the Kenya Kwanza people not to be arrested. KEMSA. Is it me who has stopped the arrest and arraignment of KEMSA billionaires from the Republic of people who died out of COVID? That is one man without the heart of this country. And I think his allegiance is to the Somali Republic. The war against the guidelines to charge terrorism is because he is protecting his brothers who come from that region. So today he has come out very clearly saying, it is me who is the hindrance, plus these young advocates, for the war against corruption. I'm sure the president heard that. I don't control the judiciary. I don't control the prosecutors. I don't control anything. We represent soul. A constitutional office holder giving advice on a case of the person he has sued, is lucky. One Justice Macau, now retired, Noordin got an order stopping any petition being filed to the Public Service Commission for his removal. This could be a great ground to remove one Noordin Haji, but he has a court order stopping him not to be removed from office, but he does not want Sonko, Governor Sonko, to enjoy the fruits of the courts. So our challenge, the media, tell him, let him come court tomorrow, let him take one file, I will be on the other side, let us test him whether he can argue one case. Remember the case of the DCJ. He could not get an advocate, he could not get a state counsel competent to argue the matter. He admitted incompetency and went to get a Queen's Counsel from UK to represent the office of the DPP. Yet he is the one who is supposed to lead the war against criminals in court. He is comfortable on top of TV stations where I also sit, but after that I come to court. He sits on the TV platforms, he remains there, he's paid for that. A prosecutor is a pilot who pilots a plane. A driver who has never driven a car is Noordin Haji. Show us any evidence. And we are challenging him. We have always matters. Let him come and prosecute tomorrow in court. Let him come and the media ask him to tell you where court one is. He'll not even trace it. He will not trace it. That is a manager by a keyboard wizard. So we have put him on notice that as we are doing the stuff we know best, Sonko, we will represent him because he has instructed us, and we will represent any client that instructs us. We are waiting for him after the change of the regime. If he will be arrested, definitely he will, we are ready to represent him. He is one of the people, we will represent him here the day he is arraigned in court. Remember the trajectory of public service. You start there, you end in the criminal court. When Noordin will be taking a plea for forgery, he will seek our advice. He'll seek our representation. And that time, as my good advocate said, under the law, we as advocates don't choose who to represent. One Noordin Haji, when he shall be taking a plea for forgery, I will be available to represent him, but he must pay fees because we will not represent him for pro bono. Thank you very much.
My senior, Mr. Danstan Omari, and my colleagues have spoken at length and in great depth on the matters that concerns us this morning. But I think I will fail in my duty if I do not highlight one or two issues. Firstly, I am well aware that today in the morning, the Director of Public Prosecutions, Mr. Noordin Haji, was on AM Live on Nation TV, and he mentioned that Mr. Danstan Omari and us, as the co-host of lawyers that serve under his mercies, we are busybodies, or rather we've been prosecuting, or rather defending matters in court without instructions. Now, what is clear and the truth of the matter is, we act on the basis of instructions that are given to us. There is no matter that we have filed in our names. There is no matter that lies before court that is filed in the name of Mr. Danstan Omari, in the name of my colleague Mr. Masharia, or my sister Martina Swiga. All the petitions that we have filed in court, the ones that are lying and waiting determination by these honorable courts, are petitions or cases that we have been moved or persuaded by our clients to seek redress on their behalf. So the assertion that we have been prosecuting matters either without instructions or that we are busybodies is at the very least unfortunate. It is just but a demonstration that Mr. Noordin Haji is still living in the pre-2010 disposition, an era where we have seen in the past that he at least made an attempt to campaign for the Kanu regime, a regime that was known very well for declining to be answerable to the people, refusing to be accountable to the public. The questions we have brought before the Honorable Court are questions essentially meant to bring him to accountability, are to question why, in God's name, he's been employing people from his relatives or people who are affiliated to him. Why, in God's name, he's been discriminating some of the prosecutors in his office. Why, in his God's name, he has refused to take action against people who are accused of murdering the late Tob Cohen, who we've been celebrating even in today's newspaper. Why, in his God's name, he chooses, rather than defend himself at the Public Service Commission, he rushes to court, the Honorable Court, and seeks an order to protect him from being answerable to the Public Service Commission. So if indeed we are busybodies, if indeed we do not have evidence to have him ousted from office for dishonor, for not being accountable to the people of this country, then why should he in the first place be moving to court to seek the court's protection? Now, in view of the Sonko issue, Sonko, the former governor of Nairobi County, is a man in his own right. He has chosen to be represented by councils of his choice. And we so happen to be his choice. And when he chooses us, he cannot, on the other hand, be discrediting us in view of the instructions that have been given by our client. The very last person who should be commenting on the correct interpretation of law in this country should be Mr. Noordin Haji. He has never, in the jurisprudence of this country, attempted to direct the attention of this court to a correct interpretation of the courts, of the law. To say the least, he has never set his foot at these honorable courts. He does not know what happens in court, and yet he is branded himself as the Director of Public Prosecutions. So we are hoping in the fullness of time, but at least he should be guided well on what to discuss. He is a public officer. We are just lawyers who are given instructions by our client. And when we question him, he should not run on TV stations to disparage our character, to question our credibility. And yet, the person who, the person in whom we have given the mandate to be the public prosecutor has not done so much to demonstrate to us his competence as a Director of Public Prosecutions. So we are hoping that he will advise himself accordingly. We will return to our chambers and decide on the appropriate way to deal with him. As the President had previously said, we are going to decide on way to deal with him quite exhaustively and quite precisely, so that we do not have a repeat of what has been transpiring. I thank you, and for all it's worth, at least my senior, Mr. Danstan Omari, has tried to demonstrate his competence and his history in academics. While his is a long journey to where he is right now, some of us are quite very new to this profession, so it will not be very difficult to dig into our past and establish what we scored in our universities or what we scored in our primary school level. So I thank you.